Well, hello everyone, Paul Akers, and welcome back to the American Innovator, day 6 of our epic journey to Europe on the Beyond Band of Brothers tour. So we continue on our tour into Belgium, and it is spectacular. The Belgium countryside is as beautiful as anything I've ever seen. And we start our trip, we load onto our bus, and off we go. And across the countryside of Belgium, you certainly see some spectacular scenery, both in natural beauty and in technological beauty with this windmill. But as we get into the trip, we first enter into one of the most epic battle scenes. This is called Charity Mont Hill, where the 504th Regiment charged up this hill to take this mountain. So what had happened was the Americans actually had control of this hill, but they pulled back because they didn't have enough resources. Then the Germans took the hill back, and the problem is this hill is very strategic. From on top of this hill, you controlled a 20-mile area, 360 degrees. So it was very strategic and necessary for them to take this hill again. And they charged up this hill, and it was really hard to comprehend, again, what they had to do. Through these deep woods and entrenched in here were gunnery positions of the German military. And they were very well fortified, but they took the hill after about 2 hours. And look at the vantage point that the Germans had, and then the Allies gained back. It was really remarkable. Next, on to the Battle of Landsraad. We're basically traveling through the countryside, and on the side of the road is a small monument that says to the American soldiers. We got off on a little farm, we walked up above this farm into a field, and this old man walked across the field. I go, what is going on here? 93 years old, he was actually at this battle when it happened, and he gave us a blow-by-blow of what he experienced. It was unbelievable. I'm having the entire thing translated so you can understand exactly what he says. He went on for about 10 minutes, and you'll be able to see that. We waved goodbye to him, but basically 18 American soldiers held off 500 Germans for 18 hours. Remarkable. Next, we stopped by this beautiful little village on this picturesque lake that was glassy smooth. I flew the drone out over it at very low altitude, and the drone went into the water and we lost it. We've got all that great footage, but it's okay. There's another one that's coming to Munich tomorrow. No big deal. Anyways, now we're on to Albert Speer's Dragon Teeth. Now, these are concrete pilasters that are shaped as a spear, if you will, and they stop tank traffic or any munitions from getting through. And this is along the entire German border from north to south. It's really unbelievable how much infrastructure was built to protect Germany. And of course, Camille had to get a big picture of the cows. It didn't stop the cows from going through, and it didn't stop Camille either. She's pretty silly, isn't she?
This is what guides do, right here.
Next, on to an amazing monument called the Massacre at Malmedy. Now, I'm going to explain to you exactly what happened here, but 87 Americans lost their life here at this intersection, and I'm going to go over exactly how it happened. Okay, so I am right now at a crossroads, you can see right here, and Malmedy is this way. This is called the Massacre at Malmedy. So what happened was the Germans were about ready to do a surprise attack on the Battle of the Bulge. They had 4,000 men in a tank column. 85 Americans came up this road right here and turned down here. The Germans, meanwhile, were intercepting this road here by another side road because all the roads were in such bad condition. They came across this convoy of 85 Americans. They shot out the front cars and the back cars to stop them all, got them all out of their car, rounded them up, put them out there in that field way over there, and then one of the sergeants of the Germans walked by, took his pistol out and shot one of them. All the Americans ran. They rounded them all back up, they got a machine gun, and they gunned them all down. Only a couple survivors who played dead survived the whole thing. And this is the memorial right here that they built for the 85 that were killed in the massacre that day. So that's just a little overview of what happened back in 1944, December 19th, at the Battle of the Bulge. One of the great things that I've learned about on this trip is the great job the Europeans have done of preserving this history and memorializing all the sacrifice of the American soldiers. Next, one of my favorite stories, the hotel owner of this hotel, Peter Rook, saved 12 Americans from being executed.
Amazing story. The owner of this hotel, Peter Rupp, Hotel de Monde,
had a bunch of Americans in the hotel. They heard gunfire from a tank battalion coming down this road. A farmer heard that, came rushing down here at 8 miles an hour down the road on his tractor, warned all the Americans in here who were eating. They took off and ran and evacuated, but 5 of them took an anti-tank weapon and put it on that corner right there. And as the Germans came down here, they shot the first 2 tanks and stopped the battalion from advancing forward, but they were killed eventually. They held them up for 15 minutes. Then the Germans came down, occupied this, and captured 8 prisoners. They took those 8 prisoners right there and shot them point blank range and let them roll into the ditch behind. Then another 12 came and they were going to do the same thing. A higher ranking German officer came up and started to stop them. And then Peter came and said, hey, listen, you guys, you're tired. Take your time, come inside, we'll feed you. And so they took those 12 other Americans, brought them inside, started feeding the Germans, locked the Americans up. Peter started feeding wine to the Americans. The Americans said, no, we don't need wine, we need food. He gave them food, snuck food to them. The Germans kept eating, then Peter started getting the Germans drunk, and then what happened was those prisoners, instead of being executed, were taken to a prisoner of war camp, and that's how the whole story unraveled. And Peter saved 12 Americans from being executed in this little village, in this little town in Belgium. It is an amazing story. Now, during the Battle of the Bulge, the high-ranking German officer was Piper, and he was the commander of this tank battalion of 4,000 people. And he went down these roads that were dirt at the time with these large Panther tanks and these Tiger IIs, very difficult to navigate, to take the bridge in this town of Stablo. He was successful, but ultimately they abandoned the tanks because they ran out of fuel, supplies, and everything else. And this is where the Allies gained the upper hand. This is a Tiger II tank. It is an ominous thing to see, particularly when you compare this to the Sherman tank, which was much smaller, a lot lighter armament. You can see this thing is taking direct blows and the things blow right by them. It doesn't even penetrate them. Look how thick this armor is. This is one intimidating machine. Thank goodness they ran out of fuel. Day 6, Beyond the Band of Brothers tour, the Battle of the Bulge.